Yo, what up guys? Welcome back to Sneaker Stories as always. I'm your host Chris Jack. Today, one of the most insane shoes to come out of the Nike ISPA or ISPA collection. It's the ISPA Flow 2020. Without further ado, let's check it out. Alright, so I've already done one or two reviews on some of the Nike ISPA models that have dropped recently, 2020. They've absolutely just taken things to a whole nother level. This, in fact, the Overreact over here was one of the more interesting shoes that I've reviewed this year. It is insanely comfortable. Basically, this whole ISPA program is to improvise, scavenge, protect, and adapt. At least that is their philosophy, to really redefine what sort of shoe manufacturing is and design and all of those kind of things, using a whole bunch of different materials, techniques, and just looking at things in a completely different way to produce completely out there, redefining technology, groundbreaking, whatever you want to call it. Everything that comes out of ISPA, in my opinion, is just insane. So after having such a really awesome experience with the Overreact, I decided to try and get a couple of more. This particular one, obviously the Flow 2020, originally took the L on sneakers on these. It dropped the same day as something big, one of the Dunks or something like that, and I tried to get them, still didn't get lucky on anything as usual on sneakers. However, they did restock in a couple of different sizes. UK 9 was one of them, thankfully, probably about a week or two ago, and I was able to get them then. So really grateful for that. This particular colorway is known as the spruce colorway. It did also release alongside an olive colorway, which, as you can see, has got that darker upper to it, as well as that beautiful contrasting yellow midsole on it. However, the spruce over here was definitely the one I preferred. It's something that I thought that I would get a lot more wear out of it, just from a coloring perspective. But literally, after taking these out of the box, I don't think I've ever seen a shoe design as crazy as this. Honestly, like, it just, everything about it, like... So from what I understand, the whole idea behind the designing of the Flow was to create something which was absolutely as light and breathable as possible on foot. Obviously, immense comfort coming from these as well. I originally thought that they used React foam in this particular pair. However, they don't use that in the branding. It's not like written anywhere on the shoe that I could see. So as far as I can see, especially from their write-ups and things like that of the shoe, it's just a standard foam, but it's insanely comfortable still. So whatever happened here is just, that's working. Now, I mentioned the weight briefly there, and the whole idea behind this was to really just strip everything that wasn't absolutely necessary on the shoe off. These things are scary light. Like, I mean, it kind of just feels like a sock on your foot, to be honest. So I guess as always, starting underneath with the outsole, I mean, you can just see, looking straight on at that, just the kind of architecture that's gone into creating this foam midsole. You do have a translucent rubber sections here in the heel and forefoot of the shoe, obviously just providing traction. You've got these little hits of these neon green dots, just adding a little bit of texture, but I'm sure there's some sort of structural purpose for that as well. And then seemingly throughout the outsole and into the midsole, they've milled out these sections to really reduce the weight on there. However, that also works for the breathability, or at least the airflow throughout the shoe. So with each step that you're taking, you're actually getting a push of air, which basically comes straight up into that midsole, through the strobel and into your foot to keep yourself cool. And you can really actually see, like, if you look straight through those holes, you can literally see the underside of the strobel of the shoe, where your foot's just directly on that. I mean, it's insane. Moving into the midsole of it, this is where I thought it was actually a React foam, just because of the texture of it and the design that they've done, but they've milled out sections over here to also just reduce weight of that. The molding and textures that have been created in the midsole are really insane. We can really see when I move to the heel section of the shoe, just how like crazy these sort of geometries are in this particular pair. And just while we're at the heel, one detail over here, you do have a little Nike swoosh, which has been sort of pressed into the mold of the midsole. Then just above that, you've got this heel cup over here, which is done in a pretty thick rubberized plastic material. You've got this beautiful little swoosh over there. It's a really nice detail, picks up beautifully on the light there as well. So that's just giving it a little bit of structure to the heel section of the shoe, because the upper of this particular pair is incredibly thin. It's one of the craziest uppers I've seen. I'm just going to take the paper out here so you can see it a little bit better, but it's insanely thin, like almost like one layer thin mesh thin. And what they've done with the upper to basically give that reinforcement and structure is they've knitted a whole bunch of overlays and compressed sort of knit areas in the upper, not only to give it an incredible design and sort of feature of the upper, but also to reinforce areas where you need the support most. So definitely here in the lacing sections, you'll see how these little round dots are completely reinforced and embroidered in there just to stop anything ripping off this otherwise very thin upper. Now obviously with that kind of upper material, it is incredibly breathable as well. However, they've also got a whole nother ventilation system that happens over here. You've got incredibly wide mesh here on the lateral and the medial side of the shoe, and that carries through into the heel section. I mean, this is literally like a window straight into where your foot would be. So from an airflow perspective, I probably think I'm going to be cold in these. Now just into the toe box section, you'll notice there's a rubberized overlay over here. It does have these little ovals sort of cut out of it, and that basically is just turned up from the outsole material over there. So just providing structure over here in the toe box section for your toes, when they sort of push up there. As I mentioned again, like the material is very thin on this. I think without that, this whole sort of section might just collapse and just look a bit crazy. And then last but not least, you do have this exterior stitching detail, which pretty much lines up with all of these panels. Just really providing more structure for that as well. The lacing system is absolutely crazy on here. As you can see, it's a little bit like all over the place with these different eyelets. So you've got quite a variety of different lacing options. You can adjust these things as you see fit. The laces themselves are just done in a rope lace, which are black. You do have these tiny little ISPA logos, which have been printed on there, which is a really nice detail. At the top of the tongue, this is quite crazy. Kind of reminded me of what we've seen in the Off-White Jordan 5s, etc., with Virgil experimenting with removing these circles out of the shoes. However, again, I think this is just sort of a play into weight saving or gram saving on this particular shoe. The tongue material itself, very thin. It does have a bit of a synthetic lining on the underneath of it, and that obviously runs into the sock liner section as well, and that's done in a neon green. And then just swinging back around the heel again, the pull tab over here is kind of this torn fabric. It gives it a bit of a deconstructed look as well, and that's done in a white with a really cool Nike swoosh logo design stitched in over that. And just another detail matching that heel tab over here, the pull tab on the tongue is done in the same material with the ISPA and Nike swoosh branding there too. Now swinging around to the medial side of the shoe, you'll notice this external lacing system over here, which is a rubberized plastic. It basically starts all the way from the midsole where it's being glued in there, and then attached to the upper as well, which obviously forms the structure for the laces to rope themselves through. And obviously, as mentioned earlier, that's finished off with this really large mesh for breathability. Now one of the craziest sort of design features on this pair has to be the insole. It's got this kind of camo effect to it with the ISPA branding in the heel section over here. It just ties in really well with the coloration of this particular pair, but most notably you'll see it's just been completely drilled out with holes throughout the insole. So obviously all that airflow that's coming underneath from the outsole of the shoe is really just pushing right through the strobel, through the insole and onto your feet. And again, just to show you inside of the shoe, if you guys can see that, it's just an incredible like stripped back and raw design inside. It just looks so exciting and so different to anything else that you get. Now on feet, these are insanely comfortable. Like, I mean, I'm really surprised that this isn't actually React foam. Like, it's that good in my opinion. They really are just a pleasure to wear. Now from a sizing perspective, I did take a UK 9, which is my true to size. I did find that they are a little bit narrow on foot, so they do fit quite snug. However, the space in the toe section over here was still quite big. I do find that with some of the Nike shoes, especially that use the very thin mesh over here, that I do have a lot of excess space in the toe section of it. However, for me personally, it's not really worth taking a half size up on these, because I generally find there's always just that much too extra space in the toe. So I would be happy with these at true to size. I would be wary of going down half a size on these just because of the width of the shoe. As you can tell from these geometries over there, it is quite narrow in the midfoot over there. So if you do have a wider foot, I'd just be wary of that. From a price perspective, 3,099 Rand. They were only available here on the Nike sneakers website, at least locally here in South Africa. 3,099 Rand for these. It is an expensive shoe, but honestly, like having these in hand, 100% worth it. Like, I don't have any regrets of this. They're definitely not on the return schedule to Nike. So these ones I'm looking to wear as much as I possibly can this coming summer. But that is it for the ISPA Flow 2020. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. If you do have any further questions on this model or anything else in the room, please always feel free to drop them in the comments below. But that's all for today's review, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe right here for more content like this down the line. But that is all. I'll catch you on the next one.